All right. Hello and welcome to Ruby Hill Neighbors monthly meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. It is 6:31 p.m. My name is Graydon. I am president. I'm joined by our awesome leadership team. We got Brandy and Jackie, our past presidents. We got our treasury department with Megan and Ken. And then we got our director of communications, Tiffany. Today's agenda, we'll start out with, we'll begin with an update from District 4 Police Station. I'm sure it'll be trickling in here soon. And then we'll get an update from District 7. And then a presentation by our guest, Casey Warner of the American Heart Association. And then we'll wrap up today's meeting with a debrief and discussion about phase 3 of the Ruby Hill Park. So if Officer Chavez or someone from District 4 is on the call.
I believe there is someone.
Yeah, I got that. It's Officer Chavez.
There you are.
I have
Perfect.
the iPhone.
Hey, how's it going, sir?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. Enjoying this beautiful sunny day here. Hoping it's a sign of
It
things to
was.
come.
Yeah, it was hot outside. I definitely will say it was hot outside. Could you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I will go over some stats, and then I'll open it up for questions. Anybody has anything that they're seeing. So first we'll go with burglary. Went from 12 to 8, 33% decrease. Your second one will be, that's going to be larceny. Went from 18 to 9, 14% decrease. Your next one will be theft from motor vehicle, 14 to 13, which will be a 7% decrease. And motor vehicle theft, 34 to 18, which was a whopping 47 decrease. So that's awesome all the way around. Looks like stats are going down. I will let you know that there is some construction going on along Louisiana from Cuevas east to what is that going to be? La Pan. And then there will be a lot of XL people or a lot of XL people over there. So if you can, I'd probably try to avoid the area. They're going to be starting probably this last month of March all the way through April. They're going to be replacing those towers. So I don't know if you guys are aware of that. I was actually out there today with the XL crews, which actually worked in our benefit for a lot of stuff going on over there. Overall, we are going to start seeing, it gets nicer out and more people are up and around and doing more things. So what I'd recommend is everybody make sure you're locking doors. I know your windows will be a little bit hotter, so make sure you're locking up windows and things like that and not giving burglars an opportunity to get in there easily. Does anybody have any questions for me at this time?
Quick one, Jeremy. This is Maggie from District 7. Do you have contact info or an update on the new homeless outreach person you guys have brought on in District 4?
So it's going to be Richard Blea. So it'll be richard.blea@denvergov.org. So Richard will be taking over. We'll be doing the homeless outreach full-time with Karen Villagrana. So he will handle all complaints. It was going to Jason and I. Jason and I got kind of split up with some other stuff. So we kind of neglected neighborhood watch. We've neglected a lot of the things that we were trying to implement, with a lot of homeless going on in District 4, homeless complaints, especially with the warehouse districts. So, Richard Blea will be taking over starting March 20th. I've been training him. It's been pretty nice having that extra person to help out with a lot of stuff. So that is great for us. And there will be a cleanup tomorrow conducted along Wesley, Navajo, Jason, and Kalamazoo. So again, the warehouse district tomorrow will be getting cleaned tomorrow. But I don't know if a lot of you guys are over there. Richard Blea will be the new homeless outreach.
I actually did have a quick question regarding the construction as well as the homeless population that
right.
Is in the neighborhood where the construction is actually being planned and currently underway is kind of right in the middle of one of our
Yes.
bigger encampments. And just
Right.
curious if there is a game plan or some sort of conversation around that population, ensuring that they're being cared for, but also ensuring that it's not necessarily going to be impacting the residents in a more significant way.
Yeah, so I was out today with I can't think of his name off the top of my head. So I have a couple contacts over there at XL. They will be, so they do have a permit that gives them the right of way for, again, the northern and southern part of Cuevas to La Pan, where a lot of the encampment began because they were on Arizona and Pecos, and they were on private property, which was again XL property. XL contacted us, wanted them off their property. They unfortunately moved to West Louisiana. So we've been out there with Karen, offering some services for relocation. A lot of the vehicles are being relocated. I'm actually working with two of them right now, trying to get some housing going because they are over the age to where we can get them qualified for housing a little easier. But again, it's an uphill battle. This is all new for all of us as far as trying to figure out, what's the best way for everyone as far as the community and that specific community. So, there's a lot of things in place. Again, that's going to start April 1st. And we will continue conducting our outreach for who wants to be part of that outreach and take some services that are being offered.
And one follow-up question around that, does Richard have a direct contact, or is there a way to get in touch if there is any questions or concerns?
Yeah, so he'll be richard.blea@denver.gov.org. Right now, so what happened is he was on the Westwood outreach team. So Westwood was the northern part of the district. So he'll just transition from that unit, and he actually doesn't have a phone because he was working out of the cop shop down in Morrison Road. So then he'll go to he'll be actually in our office, but I don't know his extension just yet. So I'll probably have him see if he can jump on next month for his extension.
Rob, I know you were going on mute for a couple times, and I think I kept interrupting you. Did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I realized the background was probably going off. So right now my business is at the corner of Mississippi. I'm going to be walking the last 2 summers. I've been able to walk my kids very easily to Ruby Hill. There's currently a blockage on the path right under, it's like between Breakfast King, by the Carpet Exchange, right over off of where Pot River Trail is. Is there any news on that space being unblocked? Because right now I'm being directed towards the homeless camps that are behind our gyms. So I'm like trying to find ways to navigate walking to Ruby Hill, and like the paths on the Pot River are shut down. So I was wondering, if there's any information on that, or if me as a community person can go and start helping clear those spaces and make it a little bit better, because I'm regardless going to be walking my kids. And so if it means I'm walking them through the fences by the Pot River, I'm going to do that because it's safer than walking through the homeless camps behind the gyms. So I'd like to kind of see what options are available for that.
And you're referring to the path. So is that going to be the Parks and Recs path? Is what you're referring? Is that under construction? I guess I haven't been down there. Is that what you're referring to, Rob?
Yeah, it's like right in front of the Breakfast King, the Carpet Exchange. It's the Platte River that goes right down that space. I don't know if that's, I don't think that's in your scope, but.
Yeah, I can jump in on that, Jeremy, if you want to talk about the camps first, and then I'll jump in on the path.
Yeah, so I'm unaware of the camps. So
I think you're breaking out there.
Is that better?
Yes, sir.
Is that better? It's getting choppy. Hang on, let me make sure I'm on my Wi-Fi. So Parks and Rec will take over that. They will, if there's anything that is not that is on the road or the part right away, then we'll enforce all that. But Robert, I don't know if there's a follow up on that. If you guys want to let me know where that's at, or maybe because I'm not too familiar with what you're talking about, then I can definitely look into it further.
Yeah, if I could get information on someone to follow up with, or how I can,
Yeah.
if it means that like I'm going down and I'm working with someone to help just like get hands doing projects, like I have a community of people that can do that, and I'm happy to figure that out.
Anything east of Santa Fe is going to be District 3. So if you're going behind like Breakfast King and that stuff, that'll be a different district. But District 4, we will take ownership when it crosses over to Santa Fe. So when
it is on our side of Santa Fe. So it's not on Breakfast King side. It's on west side of the Platte River.
Okay. So then, yeah. So if we can maybe get some more coordinates on that, then I can definitely have Parks and Rec. We have a lot of great resources over at Parks and Rec that could look into that for us for sure.
Cool. I'll get information on that for you guys.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Maggie. And I know historically we can get Officer Chavez's contact information loaded into the chat. So I'll work on doing that real quick here while Maggie, you go ahead and take over. And I know your hand was raised, so feel free to add in as well.
Yeah, I just saw that Brandy got that info in the chat, so she is totally on it. So thank you, Brandy, for doing that. So just real quick, Rob, I totally feel your pain on that section of the Platte River Trail being closed. There's two things going on down there. One of them is that bridge that's being built at the Kentucky alignment. So on the other side of Mississippi where that bridge is being built, they simply have to close the path in order to build that bridge, but that will have a specific bicycle and pedestrian span to the bridge. So it's a win in the long run. And then the other piece of that puzzle is they figured while they had it closed, they would go ahead and replace, I don't know if you remember all those railroad ties that were along there that were like leaning into the path and were sort of terrifying as you were biking through. So those are actually being replaced and a new retaining wall is being put in there. So it's super annoying that it's closed. I totally agree with you that it's frustrating, but it is going to take a little while longer. I will work on getting some better dates from Dottie about when that's going to be done from Parks and Rec too. But that is currently what's going on. Rob?
Thank you, Maggie.
In regards to the retaining wall and stuff like that, is there someone that I could voice basically ways that could get built so it could actually be used? Like, so retaining walls is something that our community will actually use as like climbing and kind of like actual like engagement within spaces and moving areas. So if I could have any input on, if you guys are going to build something, why not make it usable? So I'm like kind of all for making that retaining wall usable if I can have any say in that.
Yeah, so as the legislative end of things, our office unfortunately has like no say in how anything gets done. We just can hopefully get it done one day. Just in all honesty, because that's under construction, the ship has definitely sailed on any kind of input on what it's going to look like. I think it's going to be pretty bare bones, but maybe some part of that will be useful. But I can get Anna Claudia from Parks. She is your official Parks and Rec community liaison to maybe just give you guys an update about what exactly is going to be down there. But one way or another, at least it won't be like falling in on us. But I agree with you that it could be better, but maybe there's some other places where we can work those ideas in because there's a lot of projects going on.
Thanks, Maggie, and thanks for your questions, Rob. Finn, you've got your hand up. I want to make sure we honor your request.
Yeah, thank you. I just was curious, there's been a reoccurrence of a group of individuals in the park on ATVs and motorcycles, and we've called it in several times to the Rangers and to 311, and just curious where the threshold is of when we need to call the police and what the expectations are of the Rangers, because with kids and dogs up there, they clearly are just up there for a free-for-all, and safety of anyone else is not their concern, and just wondering what we can do about that.
Yeah, Finn, that's a great question. I would personally say call 911 because what's going to happen is if we if you do 311, even if you do non-emergency, that unfortunately just takes a lot more time, and those guys will be gone by the time, you know, someone gets down there. I think that you are completely in the right to say that that's a significant safety hazard and it's illegal activity. You know, I don't even think ATVs are legal to be driven on Denver streets, let alone in the park. So, I would say in those instances, go ahead and call 911 and let them know that there's like an active thing going on that is illegal in the park and dangerous.
I will do that from now on. Thank you very much, Maggie.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks.
Yeah,
for
Any
that
other quick?
question. I
Yeah.
do see another question in the chat, and this could be directed towards Maggie or Officer Chavez, just regarding kind of backtracking to the homeless encampment conversation around junk or waste that is being created by these encampments. So sometimes when they are abandoned or they do get cleared out due to construction and whatnot, there is quite a mess that's left behind. What mitigation offers or options do we have as people who partake in these pathways, these parks, these areas as well?
Yeah.
So
Oh, go ahead,
ahead.
Jeremy.
so yeah, I'm like, okay, good. But so what we like to do is let you call 311. We can have you call 311 and we get that out to solid waste. Solid waste is a team that we, as a resource that we all use, that will go in after and we'll get that on the list. So for instance, right now, if there was a burned camper along Louisiana and right at La Pan. So I've already put a ticket in with solid waste. So hopefully tomorrow, after they're done with a different cleanup, then they can swing through there and get some of the remnants of what's going on picked up. So solid waste, 311. 311 is your best thing. It's pocket gov. You can report most of this stuff too. And again, back to legal activity. If you see something in progress, absolutely 911. Do not hesitate to call us on stuff like that. You know, and back to I just want to get this information real quick. Was it Rob? Rob, can you take my number down real quick and give me a call tomorrow if you're around?
Yeah,
is
is this Officer Jeremiah Chavez?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I already wrote it down.
Okay, perfect. Give me a call tomorrow. I was gonna give you my my cell, and you give me a call tomorrow, and I can swing by your shop tomorrow if you get a chance.
Perfect. I can make you coffee.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
Okay. I just have a handful of updates. You want me to go ahead and do those, Jackie?
Perfect. Go for it.
So quick list here. For those of you who have been following redistricting, this past week, council voted 2 maps out of committee to the floor. Those will come to the floor on the 21st. Currently, those 2 maps, neither of them are different at all for District 7. So if you have other interests around the city, feel free to take a peek at those maps and let us know what you think of them. But as it stands, the 2 maps that have been voted into council for redistricting are exactly the same for District 7. So take a peek at those online. I'll leave a link before I log out if anybody wants to take a look at those. I will also put a link in the chat. Just like everyone else is right now, the city is hiring. If you know anyone who's interested, there's actually some pretty awesome jobs over at the city. We've got great benefits, lots of cool stuff going on. But I will put that link in the chat, everything from seasonal people at Parks and Rec to Dottie to my secret job that I've always wanted, which is street sweeping. That seems like such a power position to be able to drive a street sweeper and have people get ticketed. Maybe that's just because I'm a weirdo. But I'll put that link in the chat. There are currently free rapid COVID tests available at all Denver rec centers. So if you are looking for one, swing by a Denver rec center during business hours and ask at the front desk. They can get you free rapid tests. There's also a program coming online right now. It's voluntary currently, but will be mandatory in the future. If you have a rental property in Denver, you will be required to apply for a rental license. In the future, those are going to be $50, but if you sign up now early before it's required, it's only $25. The point behind all of this is to keep track of how much rental inventory we've got here in Denver. Right now, there is nothing on there's no way for us to keep track of that. And it also comes with some inspection requirements. So gives some protection to tenants, knowing that they'll have some regular inspections about, their heat, their, whether a stove is working, there's kind of a checklist of life and safety critical things that will be checked off on a regular basis. But I think it ends up being a win-win in the long run for everyone. We know what the rental inventory is, and hopefully we have better quality of life for folks who are renting. Couple of exciting things coming down the pipeline. There is the next phase of the bond. So we voted on that bond way back sometime pre-COVID. That's all just one big blur to me now, but we voted on a bond a while back. It passed. There's a lot of really great projects coming on board in it. And one of the things that the folks over at the bond team decided to fast track were all of the shelter and homeless services related items on that bill. So between that and some federal announcements that have happened in the last couple of days, there's some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. Particularly and closest to you guys would be the expansion of Urban Peak. So that youth shelter going from being 35 beds to 135 beds, with also transitional housing, permanent housing, and an on-site medical clinic. So for those of you who don't know about Urban Peak, it's the only shelter that serves people, I believe they do 16 to 24. So it's the only place that if you're a minor, you can go in Denver. And, they're just awesome. We've worked with them a ton. I think it's really great programs. It's a lot of kids who are just in a really crap situation, for a number of reasons. But a really cool place, and we're excited to see that happening. So those were the things I had on my list, and I'm happy to take a couple more questions before we go give this baby a bath in a little while. Little baby Cam. And dogs. There's a lot of dogs all of a sudden.
Hey Maggie, Graydon here.
Yeah.
I had a question. In reference to the rental license, is that going to be per tenant? Is that going to be per location? Yeah, and then is it like an annual license?
I don't remember the details off the top of my head. I know that there are different tiers based on, kind of like mom and pop. I've got, the other half of my duplex versus I've got a giant building with 450 units in it. I will put a link to the program in the chat here before we take off, so that you can read up on that and see. They have tables and stuff like that about what the difference will be between, like I said, that I've got 1 or 2 units, or I've got 450 giant mega units in a skyscraper.
Wonderful. And then my next question has to do with the rental realm. I'm hearing a lot about ADUs in Denver, and forgive me, I'm spacing on the acronym, what it stands for, but essentially little properties on people's property. And I was reading an article, and they were talking about a couple districts or neighborhoods rather that were rezoned. It was spurred on by council. I guess.
Yeah.
Can you enlighten us a little on ADUs and the process?
Yeah, for sure. You're talking to the expert here. So it turns out to be good. I built one on my property about 5 years ago. So for better or for worse, I know all the nitty gritty details. So right now, I don't think there's anything in Ruby Hill that is currently, from a big picture perspective, zone to have ADUs. The acronym is accessory dwelling unit. It's the nerdiest acronym ever, but people recognize them as carriage houses or granny flats, or just, I call it the apartment above my garage, So right now, so in 2010, when the last zoning code was adopted, we started allowing them in a few little locations around the city. And then when some people started building them, I was lucky enough to be able to, and other people said, why can't I have that in my backyard? Because it would be great for my mom to be able to move in because she's getting old and she could take care of my kids, or I could rent it out and make some income, or maybe I can move into it and then rent my big house out in the front or whatever. So there's a lot of really cool reasons why it's great. But right now, if you live in a place that doesn't allow ADUs, you can have, you can apply for a rezone of just your property, because there's a new program that allows for that to happen. I won't go into the details. So if you're really stoked on it and you want to get it done in the next like year or two, that is an option right now. And council has not said no to any of those. Those have all made it through council and gotten a thumbs up. It's a pain in the butt. It costs you a little bit of money, yada, 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 not ideal. But right now, there are a couple of neighborhoods that are working, and I think one of them has made it through. I think Chaffee Park up in District 1, so up there kind of north of 38th Avenue in the West Side Highlands area. That area has been redone for the entire area to be able to allow for that. We're currently working with Athmar Park on that. Part of it is because they've been involved in the new West area plan, and it's a little bit easier for us to do that in conjunction with that new neighborhood plan. Hopefully you guys will definitely be in one of the next big neighborhood plan pushes. And I think it would be really awesome to have that bigger picture conversation about land use and accessory dwelling units and all those kinds of things in that. And that would put us on a path to being able to potentially rezone the whole neighborhood to allow for it. But like I said, in the meantime, it is possible for individual people to do it. I just saw one on the agenda for next week at council. And if anyone is interested in pursuing that, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to work on that. Anything else, guys? Otherwise, I will go on mute and put some links in the chat here. I saw Brandy just got my info out. Thank you, Brandy, for being my fingers while I talk. I'm terrible at typing and talking at the same time. And there's a squeaky baby. But I will, I'm always around. You guys drop me an email anytime you want to. I'm happy to talk, happy to come down to the district and take a peek at something with you. And definitely, Rob, reach out to me and we will get some more info to you on what's going on down at the bike path.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maggie.
Thanks, Graydon. Thanks, guys.
All right, team, we're pushing along here. Next up on the agenda, we have our guest, Casey Warner with the American Heart Association. Hey, Casey, how's it going?
Hey, everyone. I am going to share my screen, but don't worry. I know that we all don't want to like sit through a PowerPoint right now. So I'm like, we'll definitely not read PowerPoint slides at you. I will keep this short and sweet and see if y'all have any questions. Can you see? Okay. So I'm Casey. I'm coming at you from nearby in Athmar Park. I was formerly the Athmar Park Active Living Coalition program manager. I have a 2-year-old right here, so sorry, you'll probably hear little guy chatting. And I am now the co-president of Athmar Park RNO, but my day job is I work with the American Heart Association. I'm the community impact director. So one of the things that we have on our table right now is a campaign called Serve Kids Better Denver. So I did not update the slide, but Andrea is also an Athmar Park resident, and we are working on this campaign together. So I guess before I get into this, so let me just tell you guys that we are at the point in this policy where we are kind of pitching it to the mayor and city council. So we are looking to get some more endorsements from RNOs and Denver community-based organizations. That does not say that you are supporting a specific ordinance, because we honestly don't know what that will look like yet, because it hasn't been introduced. It might have amendments, all kinds of things like that. So right now, we're just really looking to show the mayor and city council that we have community support of this idea. So the idea is to address childhood obesity in Colorado. It's a problem across the country, but this is just some information about it, what it looks like in Colorado. We're looking to focus on sugary drinks because sugary drinks are a culprit for many negative health impacts, particularly with kids and their growing bodies and growing brains. The beverage industry really targets kids, especially kids of color. Told you I was just going to run through this real fast. In their own words, Coca-Cola said that they are targeting children in Latino and African American communities, which is, not right, not fair. Food marketing environment, all kinds of money stacked up there to make our kids buy things that literally make them sick. My kid's obsessed with SpongeBob, so I'm guilty of buying things with SpongeBob on it to make them quiet in the grocery store. We've all been through that. So in looking at policy solutions for this big issue, restaurants are a key point of contact with families and kids. So families eat out 4 to 5 times a week. A lot of times they're ordering sugary drinks with that, and just one sugary drink, one can of soda has way more sugar than what kids should be having in a day. So the solution is looking at restaurants that offer a packaged kids meal on the menu. So this is only restaurants that have a meal, a drink, and a side or a snack at a set price, and saying that these restaurants should be listing what's on the menu, the default as the healthy options. So on the menu, it would say the options are milk, water, sparkling water, but this does not stop restaurants from serving sugary drinks at all. They can still serve soda. I mean, they could give a kid a Red Bull, they're still allowed to do that. This just makes what's marketed on the menu the healthy default, making it therefore easier for parents and kids to make the healthier choice if that's what's in front of their face. So this has been going on nationwide for a really long time, probably about 10 years. We've seen a lot of chains come on board, even McDonald's has already been doing this for 7 or 8 years. I haven't updated this, but we, in addition to Lafayette, we also have Longmont, and this just recently passed in Golden, and Denver is next up on the list. So we've been working to support restaurants. We know it's been a hard time for restaurants. So definitely, not looking to make this a burden upon the restaurant community, trying to make it just a seamless transition. Oh, look, there's Joel and Clark. I didn't even notice that. There's our representative in that picture there. So we've spent about 4 or 5 years doing a lot of community outreach and education out in the community about sugar and how it impacts children's health. Change the support. So yeah, we have some various ways we've been doing community outreach over the last couple of years. These are all different community organizations, kind of some bigger nonprofits that are based here in Denver, like the American Heart Association that I work for and has local staff, but also some small organizations. So a lot of your neighbors, Westwood Unitas, Athmar Park, Valverde. So the ask is if you guys are interested in this and think that it's a good policy solution that's worth bringing forth to council and discussing hand in hand with the restaurant community, if you would like to be listed as a endorser of this from the Ruby Hill RNO. So I will stop talking and just see what kind of questions you guys have. Stop this screen share.
Awesome, Casey. Thank you so much for that insight and just, yes, the options we have. I think that's really important to key towards the restaurants not being a burden, but also allowing them to have better options. We do have we have our treasurers, Ken and Megan, are currently checking on our voting participation in the group tonight. So because it would be a neighborhood wide, as co-president of AthMar, I'm sure you respect parliamentary procedure of making sure we have quorum to do so tonight. But I think that is well within the realm of an ask. And I think that Ruby Hill would be of benefit for sure to have restaurants within our boundaries to have healthy options available for families, especially 4 to 5 times a week as an option, a convenience option, but making that convenience a little bit easier for families to decide what's healthy for their families. And so checking on that, I think that that's a fair ask. I know we have, at least on my screen right now, I know we have 6 voting members. So I believe that gets us close to quorum.
Yeah. And no need for an immediate answer.
Yes.
Just wanted to, provide you guys some background and context and see if you guys had any questions.
What I might request, and Graydon, feel free to jump in as current acting president, is for us to table this for next meeting and then make an official vote for our April meeting and then draft up a letter. I'm not sure if Tiffany is still on. I can look through our list real quick. We can work with Tiffany to get that coordinated and sent over to you all. Is that still within the time frame that it is valuable to you if we get it to you by the end of April?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Awesome. And it does sound like Todd is on board with that in the chat. So I appreciate your input, Todd. And it sounds like there is other support for these opportunities. Or Graydon, I'm not sure if we have quorum as of right now. I think I see Megan and Ken working on that. But Graydon, would you want to try and push for a vote tonight?
I'll follow your lead. We'll, like I said, we'll vote on the next at the next meeting. But Casey, I mean, that's just tremendous work, and it's really important because they are going after the kids, and especially there here in Athmar and Ruby. We got federal and fast food restaurants everywhere, so very impactful. And I loved the presentation. I don't know if you noticed, but on the page where it was like, what can restaurants do? The text was like a black text on a black background, and it was hard for me to read. So just a heads up for future as you're presenting to other organizations. But no, yeah,
Thank
Jackie,
you.
I'd follow your lead on that and discuss it, and we'll get a vote next meeting for sure.
Thank you for pointing that out, Graydon. And yes, we'll be presenting to a whole bunch of RNOs over the next couple of weeks and hope to have a, significant group of RNOs who support this, just to kind of make our case to get it in front of city council. We're kind of like the wee baby stages of pushing this policy right now. I'm just doing a lot of outreach and just, answering questions and things like that. Yeah, any questions?
I did, as Megan just pointed out, we do have quorum as of tonight for dues paid voting members. It sounds like we have membership that's not necessarily official, but excited about this as well. So I think we would be within our realm to offer support. Graydon, if you want to call for a vote, we've got quorum.
All right, time's of the essence. Why not? Let's call
I'm
it.
happy to take this on too. So as Todd mentioned in chat, I so move to vote in an official in support of Casey, the American Heart Association. They healthy options for our restaurants and sugary drink options to offer Ruby Hill neighbors as to write a letter of support. Those of you who are dues paid members, if you know you are, please go ahead and write in yay or nay, yes or no in the chat, and we'll keep that as our voting record. So go ahead, and you can message it to me privately if you'd rather your vote to be private, but if you would like, everyone can see it as well. So I'm seeing an overwhelming yay. So Casey will work on getting that to you ASAP. And if there's anything else we can support with, let us know.
Oh, I don't even need a letter of support, Jackie. Don't worry about it. I'll follow up with you via email, but all I need basically is your logo that I could add to our list.
Perfect.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for having me out. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, thanks so much. I think my email was in the chat, so feel free to ask me any follow-up questions, or if you have any Athmore Park questions as well, I'm also your gal for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Casey.
Yeah, see you guys.
Thanks, Casey. All right. And last but not least, the discussion of Ruby Hill Park, and in particular Phase 3. And we'll hand it off to Jackie. Take us home.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Graydon. And also, I appreciate the initiative and just positivity we have in the chat tonight surrounding Neighborhood 3, as far as all of the good things we have, or the neighborhood meeting surrounding the Phase 3 meeting. The first thing I do want to just acknowledge is that there was a community input meeting that happened on March 1st. And it was surrounding just community input discussion. There was one historically, looking at these meetings, in September of 2021. And that meeting had community input in which they did enact a lot of that information. And so the Phase 2 did have some of that conversation. I know in the chat, one of the biggest things that was discussed and that we were discussing beforehand was looking at what the possibility of a skate park looks like, looking at what features and facets this part of Phase 3 has, what other opportunities that are available. And so first and foremost, I'm going to put a link in the chat. This is for all of the Denver City parks. I believe it should link directly to the Ruby Hill section. If it doesn't, towards the bottom, it's alphabetical. So you go to the R section, you look for Ruby Hill, and you click there, you can see that there is actually a neighborhood survey. There's input survey that is still available. One of the biggest things that I would say is a takeaway from our March 1st meeting was that things that were mentioned back in September were absolutely added or brought into consideration, and that there was still a lot of really good discussion that happened on March 1st. I would say, from my personal opinion, my personal outset of this is that good conversation was had. I don't think the design is perfect by any means. I don't think the design is final either. So this survey is going to be huge in relation to confirming that we have that input. Some of the biggest things that I would say were just discussed, and I know we have other people who were in on that meeting and some other people who are part of our community advisory board are also on this call. So I will welcome the floor to all of that. But the biggest thing is that there was a lot of hardscapes still presented. So a lot of concrete, a lot of cement. And I think especially considering the fact that this is a regional park, it is not just for Ruby Hill, it is for the Denver metro area, the whole surrounding area. We were hoping to see a lot more green space, some more consideration about how to tie in the bike park, and not necessarily just with the bike library or the gear library. We definitely have some neighbors who are in attendance tonight as well, who are in attendance on the March meeting, who are huge advocates for the skate park. Sounds like there's some creatives that are really eager to have input on that and to connect with the consulting company that is in charge of designing that. And then also to what does this look like holistically as a park? Not just this cornerstone of, or this corner of the park. What does it actually mean when it ties into the whole thing? I don't think we necessarily got answers for all of that as of our last meeting. I definitely think that there is still opportunity for voices to be heard and for insight, which is why the survey that I was linked is so crucial. Please, please, please make sure that you are participating in that. And especially, even though it is a regional park, even though it is impacting the city, we have neighbors. We have people who are on the call that this is their backyard. And so this is a huge impact where it could be additional parking, it could be different landscaping, and it could impact what that means for your view from your yards. All of that said, as someone who doesn't live directly on the park, it is something that I am very passionate about, being a member of the community garden and who frequents Levitt shows. All of these things where I see the park as a holistic opportunity is really the continuing conversation. So I think that there were a lot of positives that came from the previous meeting into this meeting. Do I think their job is done? No. And I am just, the call to action tonight is to ensure that you all are keeping them accountable and our voices being heard. So I know that Finn is on the call, thanks to asking a question earlier. I know he was part of that conversation. I know Jace is on the call. I know that there were definitely other leadership and other opportunities, but Finn, did you have any insight you wanted to add to what your takeaways from that meeting was and any calls to action? Sorry to call you out too. I don't know if that was fair for you to do, but thanks, Finn.
You're good. I'm prepared to talk, and I was just getting unmuted. But yeah, you know, the park planners seem to have a pretty good grasp on what we're looking for. The city folks seem to be a little stuck in what their vision is, opposed to what those that frequent the park, their vision is. So I definitely think that there's a disconnect there. And I am one of the people that live directly behind the park and directly across from where this new area will be. And I heard a lot of talk about, you know, these lovely mature trees, and, you know, I'm looking out my backyard now and there's none of those. There's several of those for further north in the park. So, you know, a lot of the reasoning for parking that I hear, I don't really understand. From what I've been informed, the size of our park compared to the amount of parking spaces we have is more than adequate and more than average for other large Denver city parks. And then, you know, I think that there's a lot of opportunity here. And I also agree, you know, thinking about it holistically, you know, how does the whole park work, not just this one section, is definitely incredibly important. You know, I don't think we should spend millions and millions of dollars on one section of the park and not consider how it affects the rest of the park. Yeah, I mean, my biggest issue is the parking lot. You know, if there's cars closer to my house, it's going to make my quality of life and that of my family and my close neighbors in proximity and in relationship decrease. And that would be a huge bummer. We've been here for 13 years, and you know, to have that happen when there's, you know, a huge amount of you know, negative feedback towards that would be really discouraging. So those are my takeaways. I'm happy to, you know, have some more dialogue in this group or later, but, you know, that's what's on the top of my mind.
Jace, did you have any insight, or anyone else who was in attendance at that meeting? Thanks for your input, Finn, especially considering living right on the park and the parking conversation. That is something that was amended from their first proposal to the second one. So again, with that community input, the survey, that I think that's important to be heard. Jace mentioned that, then you nailed it. So you covered all of those topics. I'm
Hey,
not
Jackie,
sure. Todd just asked the question of who is the firm tasked with designing the park. I don't actually know. Our key contacts, any of the emails that have been given is through Denver Parks. I know that they have hired a contractor to work with them, but I know Anna Claudia, who was mentioned earlier in the meeting, is the person who is kind of the key contact. And I know that there was a lot of conversation of like getting local individuals involved to help with kind of those key moments, the key things like skate park not just being a flat space, and or like more recreational areas, to Rob's point earlier, as far as like underpasses, how do we actually make this park functional? I think Ana Claudia is the best contact. And again, she was linked earlier in the chat, thanks to Brandy. Megan, you just had your hand up. Go ahead and unmute and chime in.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. I was just going to add that during the meeting, we also talked about how it might be beneficial to do a walkthrough with parks and some members of the community, just to hopefully like think about how all these different features that potentially like different folks want within the park, to put them in the place that makes the most sense in the park. So potentially like putting this bike shed and supply center, you know, by the bike park and some of these other things, rather than up by people's homes. So hopefully something will come of that, but I just wanted to add that note for folks too, that if you're taking a survey or trying to communicate with parks, as a community, I'm sure we'll try to organize that as well over the coming weeks.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, that was a major takeaway from the last meeting, was the comment, and Finn, to echo you, that the individuals who are tasked with this project don't necessarily experience the park in the same way our neighbors do. It isn't necessarily individuals who live directly on the park or individuals who utilize the park on a regular basis, or to have the impact, even just the matter of like the four-wheelers and ATVs that we mentioned earlier today. So Megan, thank you so much for mentioning that walkthrough was promised. I don't think we have anything scheduled yet. And the opportunity to do so. So I think that will be an important next step, is to ensure that the scope of the project is understood. And Brandy, go ahead and unmute yourself. And Todd, I will work on finding Ana Claudia's contact for you.
Actually, I saw Rob's hand was raised before mine, so I'll let him go first.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip that. Rob, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a few points. I can kind of touch on a couple of them and then make sure Brandy has a point to say in. But for the top of the park, if we're going to be designing something, I'd like it to, one, kind of work within the realms of everything that has already been designed, but also make it a little bit more useful. As someone that I go to the park almost every single day, and I bring campers there every day in the summer. I travel to parks all around Colorado just to like see how they're built and designed, and I actively use them. And I'd like to see some different pieces used better. Like there's like the tunnel, and for example, it was like the water park. The water park, one of the pieces was we want to activate the playground, or we want to activate the park year round. And so I like the idea of that, but one of the things I saw a problem was a lot of the designs are almost immediately deactivated. Like the water park, when it's off, it won't be used. The ground, the way it's designed, it isn't really designed in a way that I foresee could be used when it is turned off. When if we design just like literally just putting granite rocks in in that area, you're going to have, when a fountain's off, you can at least still jump and climb across that fountain space. For the park where the BMX bikes are trying to drive around, there's like these little French fries that are sticking up. I think the same goal can be achieved, but with different pieces and different objects and used more effectively. I think considering that the park is kind of going this direction of sports and trying to get interaction and You got BMX bikes, and we got skate parks being thrown around as an idea. We have Team Pain, who's willing to design a skate park. It'd be awesome. But also, all these things are tools that you have to have in order for your community to use. So like, you have to have a bicycle, you have to have skis, you have to have these kind of tools, and you'll have to do that. And in this neighborhood, most of my students, like some of them don't even have shoes. So kind of designing parts of the playground that I think would facilitate that and get movement throughout the whole park, almost like the BMX, I keep calling it BMX, mountain biking course. Maybe this mountain biking course is still fundamentally designed the way it is, the way they want it to be, but maybe that course is bringing you around the park to different sections. Like it's bringing you to a skate park, it brings you to the BMX path. Maybe kind of like Wash Park, where it's like a wide path lane and it's like going through that space. Maybe it was like a wide path where it's like it's encouraging walking space while also encouraging handy accessible routes. Like that's something that like I think Ruby Hill doesn't really have, is like it's not that handy accessible. So why not create almost routes that are for handy accessible people, create routes for walkers that are alongside of BMXing and riding path. And then these like paths bring you to different parts of the park where you have like this huge BMX path. We could have a skate park up at the top. But like outside of the scope, it'd be cool to see little mini pop-ups throughout the whole park that would be like little tiny art fixtures that you could climb, you could skate on, you could jump on and climb on, get the climbing community to help facilitate that space. There's a lot of really cool ideas that are being done out in Denmark, and a lot of really cool ideas that are done all over the place. I can go forever on that, but that's kind of my input is.
Well, and I'll say, Rob, you're preaching to the choir here. Like, I think you're right in line with what a lot of us have been hoping for. And I think that's the ongoing conversation. I will add, I was thinking about touching on this beforehand, that right now, it was explained in an outside meeting. It wasn't explained in the last meeting, but essentially there was a grant for the gear library for the bikes that tie into the BMX course. And then also the swimming pool needs to be mitigated. That's on the list. Either way, it's pretty sure that they can't make it a swimming pool anymore. So your input regarding the infrastructure, having those things that like the different topographical things is an awesome input. But those are the two cornerstones of where this funding, why this funding is even happening. But all that said, you're definitely in line with some of the things that I know a lot of people have passion about, is, you know, the accessible loop, having something where this park is actually fully functional and having something where it is more of a holistic approach. I know Finn mentioned that. That's something that was my takeaway. Safety and holistic approach is something that's super important to us. I know that there is the opportunity for the actual design still. I don't think that that's written in stone. I don't think that that has been decided. Again, Anna Claudia, whose contact information is further up in the chat, would be a great person to connect with, just to make sure that your voices are being heard. Team Pain, I see in the chat. I know like there's a bunch of local opportunities. A big skate crowd is on the call tonight, and all of that is definitely something that I think is part of this holistic conversation. So making sure our voices are heard. I'm a broken record. I apologize for that. But like making sure like people are taking these surveys, making sure that if there is individual questions or concerns, you can reach out to us to be part of that walkthrough, that bigger conversation, to be a part of this. Is awesome. So I so appreciate your insight. And like, again, you're preaching to the choir, because we're so on board with all of that information as well, especially a comprehensive loop, ADA accessibility. Like we're right there with you, and understanding your background, I think that makes a lot of sense too. So appreciate that insight. And we just want to make sure that you guys get in touch with the right people. We're unfortunately not designing the park. We would probably have some pretty cool ideas if we were, but we just get to make sure we're connecting everyone with the right folks. So I would highly recommend reaching out to Anna Claudia or getting in a chat with all of us, and we can definitely make sure you're connected with everyone. So cool. Thanks for that insight. Brandy, your hand has been patiently raised.
Oh gosh, no worries. I guess I want to quickly second what Jackie just said too. You know, this we are the Ruby Hill Neighbors Registered Neighborhood Organization, and we, obviously want the best for Ruby Hill Park. But these meetings are to, provide information back to our neighborhood about what happened at the stakeholder meeting. So any, ideas and stuff you have, aren't going to get to the designers or the planners here. We're just the folks that are trying to make sure that, if you're not able to attend the stakeholder meetings and such, that we can try to keep the neighborhood as informed as possible, because it's a massive project and there's so much going on. And we know how busy everybody is, and people just can't make it to random stakeholder meetings. So we do our best to get the information out there, and all of your guys' ideas are great, but we can't do anything with it. We're also trying to provide information on things that we think would work best. And honestly, my other point is just a second to what Megan was saying. It really bummed me out, and not to go down the negative road, but at the last stakeholder meeting, one of the Denver Parks and Recreation representatives said the first time she had been to Ruby Hill Park was like 2 weeks prior at an event. And how are we planning this big of a project at a park that you've stepped foot into at this point, So with Megan's point of having a walkthrough, making the folks that are making these massive decisions for the park in our neighborhood come to the park with us, stand, near our backyards, go stand in the grove of trees that every time one dies, they just cut it down and never replace it, So really, I don't even have my own point. I'm just reiterating that it's so important that we get these folks here into our communities. And, and maybe even Rob, like taking the walk that you try to take with your kids and stuff like that. It's easy to plan things when you're, using a computer screen or whatever, but, come to Ruby Hill Park at 9 p.m. at night and see what's actually happening, in the park. And then see if you think that the skate park or any of the new amenities might just be really abused. So sorry, I totally took it negative, but please, everybody take that survey, spread the word to folks that care, and make sure that our input is heard, because while they have to provide a stakeholder process, sometimes it depends on how much people really get involved, and people have been really involved, but man, if more people get involved, that's where we're going to make impact. So just thanks so much for sticking with it and listening and things like that. And let's work together moving forward for sure. And rant.
I don't think that was negative at all. I think it was important insight and valid points for sure. So we are 3 minutes past time for the meeting tonight. I will say that this chat has been awesome as well, as far as providing insight on companies that we'll keep in touch. We'll keep that as a part of the notes for tonight's meeting. Also, just to echo what Brandy was saying, please feel free to share the survey for those who utilize this park, for those who live along the park, for those who care about this park. This is the point where it's kind of go time. It's kind of a crucial standing safety infrastructure, ensuring that we are bringing the good kind of attention to the park, and we are keeping this investment protected. And Laura's point, that I fear about it being abused, exactly to that point. So how do we keep this investment protected? How do we keep this park being utilized by those who are going to enjoy it, and making sure that everything that our neighbors along the back of the park are also protected? And so please share that survey. I don't know if we have the next community outreach meeting set. Of course, we will be communicating that. Tiffany, who is on the call is our amazing communications officer, and she has been managing the Ruby Hill email link. If you don't have that link, you can go to our website and make sure you sign up for that. You'll get the emails about all of our meetings. And then as far as our Facebook group, if you live in the neighborhood and you promise to adhere by the admin guidelines, including no sales or solicitation, please, 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 no sales or solicitation on the Facebook group. We have a page for sales, but that's another great way to keep in touch. And so, yeah, just please share the survey, share this information, and make sure your voices are heard. Graydon, your hand is raised, but I was going to kick it to you anyways to close out the meeting. So the floor is yours.
I figured I just wanted to, use the little emoji, hand emoji there. But yeah, a lot to take in there, and just appreciate everybody's voice and opinion on it. And I guess action items going forward regarding this topic of Ruby Hill Phase 3 would be, what I would suggest is, like, getting down, your concerns, worries, what you want to see for the park, maybe writing that down. You can send something to us at info@rubyhilldenver.com. We can decipher all that, because I know the leadership team, we're going to be working on getting that meeting at the park with these folks, with these decision makers, and where we'd love to have everyone there. That would probably be intimidating, and maybe not a lot of things would get done. So if you guys can organize your thoughts, put them down on paper and email them to us as a leadership team, we can look them over and, like I said, highlight what's important and make it concise. And but that is something we're going to work on, is getting a meeting in person, because we need to get these people visiting the park. It sounds like more than once, if they're going to be the decision makers in amending it. And I guess with that being said, that was just an amazing meeting. I really appreciate everybody showing up and their participation, and I'm really excited for next month's meeting. And if there's anything else, I guess that's it. And meeting adjourned. I appreciate it.
I'm going to type in our email address before we end the meeting. It's rubyhillneighbors@gmail.com. Is one of the ways to get in touch with us. You can also contact us on the website, which is that website. So rubyhillneighbors@gmail.com is one way. You can also put your emails in here. If you have questions or comments, we can reach out that way. But I will go ahead and end this meeting after I get that added to the comment and give you guys a couple moments to copy it. So thanks everyone for your insight tonight. Awesome job.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Who are you talking to?
Awesome job. And again, too, feel free. I was just live on the Facebook group. You can message me that way. Brandy Moe is very active on there. She's also a great resource for contact information. Graydon is our current president. He's on that email. So we're all anxious to make sure that we are representing this community and making sure good things happen here. So again, I appreciate the chat. There's some really good contact. I hope that our individuals who are with parks get in contact with those people, and appreciate your insight. So, all right, guys. Todd, I will go ahead and get that information down, and reach out to that Gmail account if you don't hear from us in the next couple days. Sometimes life gets crazy, but have a great night, guys. We'll talk to y'all soon.